Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Friday, the 27th of September, comes to you from the south of France. I'm here for a week's holiday starting next week. So, just recording the last of the week. We're seeing here the dollar just rising, looking stronger and stronger all the time. On the weekly chart, we see that big candle that we've seen this week, and this rise showing here good upside targets, 2-year highs on the dollar index, and multiple upside targets on the short-term chart, showing that we could go actually higher. When we look at the short-term chart, we've got targets to 103. That's another 4% higher. That one is activated. This one not quite yet activated, but targets to 4% higher, both pointing to that same direction. Does imply that we've got quite a good chance of getting there. Looking at the euro, we see that the euro is therefore weaker against the dollar, hitting new 2-year lows there. So the euro looking weaker and lots of downside targets, some 1% lower really. So it does look like the euro is going to fall even further. We're sitting at 109.12 at the moment. The Japanese yen, we're seeing the dollar is actually a little bit weaker here. So the dollar is, but still bullish on the short-term chart. So the dollar is actually starting to show some strength here and looking like we might see a medium-term transition. The yen normally being the strongest currency in times of uncertainty. The dollar, of course, also being a relative safe haven. Sterling hitting new lows there against the dollar, sitting at 123.29. So pushing lower for the week, and we see that candle here this week. We've had quite a bearish week for sterling, and against the euro we're seeing sterling also lower there, just pushing lower this morning. Against the Swiss franc sitting at 122, dropping, nudging new lows here as well. So sterling actually not having a great week. Looking at Bitcoin, we've got further falls this morning. We fell off yesterday and we're nudging that $8,000 level. All eyes really on this 7,100 target. So Bitcoin really now falling away quite substantially, quite big negative week there. The S&P 500 index nudged lower overnight, so we are just seeing that fall there, and the NatGas also lower. All the US indices now just falling below the cloud on the short-term chart, so we are seeing a fall there, and the Russell 2000 also just falling. Political woes in the US now starting to hit with the stocks as well, so we're just seeing a bit of a change in sentiment over the past week. The futures are up very slightly this morning, but not enough for us to say the market would open higher. So the S&P future and the NASDAQ futures really not enough of a move there, but we would say therefore flat. The UK market is actually up quite sharply this morning, so quite a strong opening from the FTSE 100 index. So we're seeing short-term bullish here, but that belies what we're seeing in the US, and the US will dominate, of course. And Midcaps in the UK actually up this morning as well, but on this chart not quite enough to take us into bullish territory. The DAX sitting at 0.4%, so we're seeing a little bit higher there, and the CAC Current actually up quite sharply. We're seeing a move there just back into to bullish territory as well. Japanese market sitting lower, down 1% overnight, but not yet turning bearish on the short-term chart. The Hang Seng actually sitting lower, down 0.3%, and the Chinese market actually fairly flat. The Sensex is down 0.25%, but that market actually holding on to those moves we saw recently on the tax cuts. Same in Aussie Market, up 0.5%. Looking quite strong. Brent Crude pulling back 0.8%. So we are just seeing crude oil continuing to look quite bearish, and WTI much the same picture, of course. And US NatGas actually down quite sharply yesterday. Storage numbers disappointing, and so we're sitting down at $2.43. Gold just nudging below the $1,500 mark this morning. Strong dollar not helping there at the moment. And if we look at silver, we're seeing a similar picture there. We're falling away as well, so short-term bearish. US 10-year yields and Treasury yield, we're seeing just a slight steadying there at about 1.7%, so looking better there. And German bond prices just coming off a little bit with those better yields, but we have found support on the bond on the German bond. Just taking a quick look at some of the bellwethers. I'm using Thomson Reuters icon here, Metastock Zenith if you're a private user. I use this because I get the intraday charts, which I don't get on Yahoo Finance data. And we're just seeing here Apple just starting to wander into bearish territory in line with the US indices. If we look at Amazon, they're also have been heading lower for about a week, and medium-term bearish for Amazon. This trend starting to look a little bit under pressure for Amazon, so that would be a worry for the market. And if we look at Alphabet, Google is actually holding up better than the others, and Facebook had quite big falls yesterday, down 1.5%, and it's also just turning bearish on that medium-term chart. So we are seeing some quite big tech bellwethers starting to unwind some of these long-term trends. So that is a little bit worrying at the moment. We're looking at Yahoo data now, just looking at the Dow. The best performers in the Dow last night were Nike again, was the day before as well. It's up 1.5%, and on the downside we had United Health Group. They're down 3%. So we saw some quite big falls there. Chevron down 2.7%, Johnson & Johnson, Cisco, lots of stocks just starting to fall away. United Health Group unwinding that long-term uptrend, and the relative starting to look bearish there as well. So we are seeing some worrying signs that the market just struggling to get through this resistance level, and we're seeing a bit of a sell-off. Tesla actually up 6%. They were down heavily the day before, so we're really seeing a seesawing in the price there, quite significant there. That's the best performer in the Dow last night. The worst performer was Trip.com, and they were down 7%, and that also looking pretty bearish on the chart. The Aussie market overnight, we saw Speedcast International, they're up 17%, not enough to change the fact that this chart looks absolutely dire. So just a relief rally, but not changing the picture overall. Bingo Industries are down 3.5%. So we're just starting to see this trend starting to break down as well. In India, quick look at the Indian market. The best performer was Bajaj Finance. They're up 1.6%. And was just pulling the data in here from Yahoo Finance. You see the live data coming in. So we're just pulling the data in here. And we saw here 1.6% up, Chip Limited, and there we are. See Bajaj Finance looking very, very strong indeed, relative outperforming the Dow by 32% this year. Looking at the downside, Vedanta down 5.5%, so quite big falls there on the Indian market, and that looking quite worrying there. Taking a look now quickly at Europe, we saw that the FTSE 100 index was actually up quite sharply this morning. NMC Health 2.5% higher, so looking like quite a good recovery there. And we're seeing here Anglo American, Glencore, quite a lot of the resource stocks are looking higher this morning in the UK. Not many stocks down. Imperial Brands, the worst performer, down 1.7%. Taylor Wimpey, Pearson's, quite a few usual suspects here, but at the moment, Imperial Brands not looking great. Looking at the FTSE 250 now, we have the worst performer here is Cirrus Minerals, down 12%. Their woes continue, and Amigo Holdings down 4%. So that chart just looking pretty terrible as well. On the upside, we've got Vivo Energy up 3.5%. But again, the chart very, very choppy here as well. Last of all, looking at the Eurostoxx 50, we see here we've got Adidas, we've got BS, in terms of the percentage performance, we've got BSFF. They're actually looking stronger this morning at 1.6%. Charts are starting to show a little bit of a potential for recovery there. And on the downside, in the Eurostoxx, we've got ASML Holdings, quite a few Dutch stocks in the underperformers this morning. Eurodollar down, for example. This stock's still looking amazing though in the chart, outperforming the Dow Jones by 40% this year. That's it for today. I'm away next week, so until the Monday the 7th of October, happy charting. See you then.